Chapter 6. Father parted the sorghum and threaded his way northwest, towards our village, as fast as his legs would carry him. Badgers with human-like feet scattered clumsily across the ditches, but he ignored them. Once he was on the road, he didn't have to worry about getting tangled up in the sorghum plants. He ran like the wind, his red cotton waistband sagging like a crescent moon under the weight of his Browning. Although the pistol banged painfully against his hip, the growing numbness made him feel like a real man, powerful, even invincible. He could see the village in the distance, the gloomy, faded ginkgo tree at the entrance, which had stood for nearly a century, waited in somber greeting. As he ran, he took the pistol from his waistband and aimed at birds gliding gracefully in the sky above him. The street was deserted, except for somebody's lame, blind donkey, which was tethered to a crumbling wall. It stood motionless, its head drooping low. A solitary crow with wet dark blue feathers was perched on a stone roller. The villagers had gathered in the distillery compound, which had been paved with red gravel in the days when sorghum was purchased and stacked there, back when Grandma ambled unsteadily on her tiny feet, a white horsetail whisk in her hand and the glow of dawn in her cheeks. As she watched the drunken hands buy sorghum, now the people faced southeast, awaiting the sound of gunfire. Children my father's age were uncharacteristically well behaved, no matter how they itched to act up. Father and son 5, who had skinned and butchered Uncle Arhat the year before, ran into the square from different directions. Son 5 hadn't been the same since the skinning. Arms and legs thrashing, eyes staring straight ahead, cheeks twitching, a stream of gibberish pouring from his foamy mouth. He had fallen to his knees and shouted, "Elder brother! Elder brother! Elder brother! Commander made me do it. Couldn't help myself. You exist in heaven, where you ride a white horse on a carved saddle, wear fine clothes, carry a golden whip." When the villagers saw him like this, their loathing abated. A few months after, he went mad. His behavior turned truly bizarre. He would begin shouting, and the corners of his eyes and mouth would turn up as snot and slobber dripped unchecked. No one could make any sense of the gibberish, and the villagers called it heavenly retribution. Father ran up breathlessly, Browning in hand, his head covered with white sorghum powder and red dust. The ragged son 5, his belly a mass of wrinkles, stumbled into the square, his left leg rigid, his right leg rubbery. Everyone ignored him, for they were all too busy watching the impressive figure of my father. Grandma walked up to him. Although still in her early 30s at that time, she wore hair in a bun, neat bangs covering her shiny forehead like a beaded curtain. Her eyes were as moist as autumn rains. People blamed that on the wine fumes. More than 15 years of romantic, soul-stirring adventures had turned her from a virginal teenager into a bold young woman. "What's wrong?" she asked. Still trying to catch his breath, Father stuck his Browning into his waistband. "Didn't the Japs come?" "We won't show that son of a B-word, Detachment Leader Lang, any mercy," Father exclaimed. "What happened?" "Make some fish cakes." "We didn't hear any fighting." "Make some fish cakes," Father repeated, and put in plenty of eggs and onions. "Didn't the Japs come?" Gamma persisted. "Commander, you said to make some fish cakes, and he wants you to deliver them." "Fellow villagers," she said, "go home and make fish cakes." Father turned to go out, but Grandma stopped him. Tell me what happened with the Lang detachment, Doguan. He wrenched free of her grip and snarled. They never showed up. Commander Yu isn't going to let them get away with it. He ran off, leaving Grandma sighing as she watched the slight silhouette of his back. Sun 5 was standing at a tilt in the spacious compound, staring stiffly at Grandma and gesticulating wildly, a stream of slobber running down his chin. Ignoring Sun 5, Grandma walked up to a long-faced girl leaning against the wall, who smiled weakly, then fell to her knees, wrapping her arms tightly around Grandma's waist, and began to cry hysterically. Lingzi, Grandma consoled her, touching her face. Be a good girl. Don't be afraid. The prettiest girl in the village, Lingzi, was 17 at the time. When Commander Yu was recruiting troops, he assembled 50 or so men, one of whom was a gaunt young man with a pale face and long black hair, dressed in black except for a pair of white shoes. Lingzi was rumored to be in love with him. He spoke with a beautiful Beijing dialect and never smiled. His brow was forever creased in a frown with 3 vertical furrows above his nose. Everyone called him Adjutant Ren. Lingzi felt that beneath Adjutant Ren's cold, hard exterior raged a fire, and it put her on edge. Yu Jianao's troops drilled each morning on the square where we bought our sorghum. As soon as Liu Sishan, Commander Yu's bugler, sounded reveille, Lingzi dashed out of the house and ran to the parade ground to lie on the wall and await the arrival of Adjutant Ren, his wide leather belt and Browning pistol. Adjutant Ren strode up to the troops, his chest thrown out proudly, and called them to attention. 2 columns of soldiers clicked their heads snappily. Adjutant Ren commanded, "Attend hut! Legs straight, stomachs in, chest out, eyes forward, like panthers about to pounce." "What the hell kind of way is that to stand?" he kicked Wang Wenyi. "Your legs are spread like a mule taking a piss. I'd beat some discipline into you if I could." Lingzi liked seeing Adjutant Ren beat up on people and liked the way he chewed them out. His autocratic demeanor thoroughly intoxicated her. Her favorite leisure activity was strolling around the parade ground with his hands clasped behind his back. Lingzi would hide behind the wall and drink in the sight. "What's your name?" Adjutant Ren asked. "Lingzi." "Who are you watching from back there?" "You." "Do you know how to read?" "No." "Want to join the army?" "No." "I see." Regretting her response, Lingzi told my father that the next time Adjutant Ren asked her if she wanted to join the army, she'd say yes, but he never asked her again. Lingzi and my father were sprawled atop the wall, watching Adjutant Ren teach the men revolutionary songs. Father was so short at the time that he had to stand on a pile of rocks to see what was happening on the other side of the wall, while Lingzi rested her pretty chin on the wall and stared at Adjutant Ren, drenched in morning sunlight, as he taught them a song. "The sorghum is red, the sorghum is red, the Japs are coming, the Japs are coming. The nation is lost, our families scattered. Rise up, countrymen, take up arms to drive out the Japs and protect your homes." The men with 10 ears and stiff tongues never did learn how to sing it right, but the kids on the other side of the wall soon had it down pat. My father never forgot this song as long as he lived. Lingzi screwed up her courage one day and went to find Adjutant Ren, but accidentally stumbled into the room of the quartermaster, Big Tooth Yu, a hard-drinking, insatiably lecherous 40-year-old uncle of Commander Yu. He was pretty drunk that day, and when Lingzi burst into his room, it was like a moth drawn to a fire, or lamb entering a tiger's den. Adjutant Ren ordered 2 soldiers to tie up the man who had deflowered the girl Lingzi. At the time, Commander Yu was staying at our house, and when Adjutant Ren came to make his report, he was asleep on Grandma's couch. She had already washed up and brushed her hair and was ready to fry some willow fish to go with the wine when the fuming Adjutant Ren burst into the room, frightening the wits out of her. "Where's the commander?" Adjutant Ren asked her. "He's on the kang, asleep. Wake him up." Grandma woke Commander Yu, who walked out of the bedroom, stretched, yawned, and asked, "What is it?" "Commander, if a Japanese raped my sister, would he be shot?" "Of course," Commander Yu replied. "If a Chinese raped my sister, should he be shot?" "Of course." "That's just what I wanted to hear," Adjutant Ren said. "Big Tooth Yu deflowered the local girl Cao Lingzi, and I've ordered the men to tie him up." "Are you sure he did it?" Commander Yu sucked in his breath. "Since when is sleeping with a woman a serious offense?" "Commander, no one's above the law, not even a prince." "And what do you think the punishment should be?" Commander Yu asked somberly. "A firing squad," Adjutant Ren replied without hesitation. Commander Yu sucked in his breath again and began to pace impatiently, anger building up inside him. Finally, he smiled and said, "Adjutant Ren, what do you say we give him 50 lashes in front of the men and compensate Lingzi's family with 20 silver dollars?" "Because he's your uncle?" Adjutant Ren asked caustically. 80 lashes, then, and force him to marry Lingzi. I'll even call her auntie." Adjutant Ren undid his bed and tossed it, along with the Browning pistol, to Commander Yu. Holding his hands in a salute in front of him, he said, "This will make it easier for both of us." He turned and walked out into the yard. Commander Yu, pistol in hand, stared at Adjutant Ren's retreating back and growled through clenched teeth, "Go on. Get the F word out of here. No damn schoolboy is going to tell me what to do. In the 10 years I ate fish cakes, nobody was that insolent to me." "Jan Ao," Grandma said, "you can't let Adjutant Ren go. Soldiers are easy to recruit, but generals are worth their weight in gold." "Women don't understand these things," Commander Yu said in frustration. "I always thought you were tough, not spineless." Commander Yu aimed the pistol at her. "Have you lived long enough?" He snarled. She tore open her shirt, exposed 2 tender mounds of flesh, and challenged him. "Go ahead. Shoot." With a shout of "Mom," Father rushed in and buried his head between her breasts. As he looked at Father's neat round head, Grandma's beautiful face, a torrent of memories flooded Granddad's mind. With a sigh, he lowered the pistol. "Button up," he said as he walked outside, riding crop in hand. He untied the sleek brown colt and rode bareback into the parade ground. When the troops relaxing on the wall saw Commander Yu ride up, they jumped to attention and held their breath. Big Tooth Yu, his arms bound behind him, was tied to a tree. Commander Yu dismounted and walked up to him. "Did you really do it?" "Janao," he said, "untie me. I'll leave." The soldier stared wide-eyed at Commander Yu. "Uncle," he said, "I'm going to have you shot." "You bastard!" Big Tooth Yu bellowed. "You shoot your own uncle? Have you forgotten what I did for you? After your father died, I took care of you and your mother. If not for me, you'd have been dog food long ago." Commander Yu smacked him across the face with his riding crop. "You no good bastard," he railed before falling to his knees and saying, "Uncle, I, Yuja now will never forget your kindness in bringing me up. I will wear mourning clothes after your death and will memorialize you and tend your grave on the holidays." With that, he jumped to his feet, mounted his horse, and whipped it on the flank, and galloped off in the direction Adjutant Ben had taken. The horse's hooves shook the earth. Father was there when they shot Big Tooth Yu. Mute and two other soldiers dragged him to the western edge of the village, choosing as the execution ground a spot beside a crescent-shaped inlet in a stream of black, stagnant, insect-laden water. A solitary willow tree, its leaves yellowed and dying, stood on the bank. The stillness of the bend was broken only by hopping toads. Alongside a pile of damp hair clippings lay a single, tattered woman's slipper. They dragged Big Tooth Yu up to the edge of the inlet and stood him there, then looked at Mute, who unslung his rifle and cocked it. A bullet snapped into the chamber. Big Tooth Yu turned to face Mute and smiled. To Father's eyes it was a kindly, heartfelt smile, like the miserable dying rays of a setting sun. "Untie me, Mute. I shouldn't die all trussed up." Mute thought for a moment before walking up, rifle in hand, taking his knife from his waistband and deftly cutting the ropes. Big Tooth Yu massaged his arms, then made a quarter turn and shouted, "Shoot, Mute. Aim for my temple. Don't make me suffer." To Father's mind, a man at the point of death suddenly commands the respect of all other men. Big Tooth Yu was, after all, the seed of Northeast Gaomi Township. He had committed a grave offense that even death would not expiate. Yet, as he prepared to die, he displayed the airs of a true hero. Father was so moved at that moment that he felt like leaping in the air. Big Tooth Yu gazed down at the stagnant water, where green lotus leaves and a soul-white blossom floated. His gaze then took in the shimmering stalks of sorghum on the opposite bank. In a loud voice he broke into a song. "The sorghum is red, the sorghum is red. The Japs are coming, the Japs are coming. The nation is lost, our family scattered." Mute raised his rifle, then lowered it, raised it, and lowered it. "Mute," the soldiers pleaded. "Talk to Commander Yu. Let him go." Gripping his rifle tightly, Mute listened to Big Tooth Yu butcher the song. Big Tooth Yu turned back, his eyes wide with anger, and screamed, "Go ahead and shoot. You're not gonna make me do it myself, are you?" Raising his rifle one last time, Mute took an aim at Big Tooth Yu's tile-like forehead and pulled the trigger. Father saw Big Tooth Yu's forehead explode into fragments even before the dull crack of rifle fire reached his ears. Mute stood with bowed head, the echo of the shot still hanging in the air, wisps of white smoke rising from the muzzle of his rifle. Big Tooth Yu's body froze for a second before plummeting into the water below like a felled tree.